Elegy 1. And we awaken, our backs drawn together by Escher, drying hills and sheets, rolling over her ornate curves. I roll over like tides beneath Morpheus's moon, facing her back, so I may etch my fingers on her side, leaving my mark, tagging her as she has tagged me. I am the abandoned factory producing shadows that haunt the neighborhood of the page. She is the silhouette artist, painting my canvas with lips that see in the dark. One eye slightly opens, touching hers. When she rolls over, facing me, beneath the tumbling waves of sheets, outside of that abandoned factory musician's bust, hustling in Goodwill warehouse dress. There are simulacrums on my phone. She walked by as I painted textiles on the tabula rasa, putting change in the hats of the musicians of Goodwill. She walked into my factory, turning me on, making me produce again. Elegy 2. You ready? She asked. Yeah, let's go, I said, even though all she had on was a loose t-shirt, sweatpants, and a beat-up pair of sneakers. She still radiated a star in cotton clothes. Her eyes, her smile, her energy was all-encompassing. A chocolate hyacinth flood when our hands embraced, mortared together like the bricks in the German houses at the heart of the city of God's people. Her temples, once old storefronts or auto garages, are the spiritual centers we walk by, next to the decay of a black middle class left by the Assyrian. Among shattered glass and torn torch tents, we live in Sennacherib's abandoned camp. There I see a rat scavenging the ruins of Tenochtitlan. There I see a slave tripping over trash cans after inhaling the white flight of the devil's powder fleeing the pipe. None of this bothers us. We see children playing basketball in the park, and entrepreneurs selling barbecue on the lot of a chop suey. Old men are talking and laughing as an old lady strolls across the sun-beaten pavement. We fly to the Emerald Park on love we touch with eyes and ears. We take seat at the front of the glimmering lake and feed the mallards sailing across the lake like a family of green-neck yachts. Elegy 3. Tell me, you bricks, and give O glorious prison industrial complex his answer. Aren't you alive? There behind the navy blue dumpster is the body of a rape victim. There within those corpses there is a soul in each organ. Speak now, zombie streets. Speak one word, de facto. Are you not the genesis of Herc, Bombarda, and Flash? Aren't you the true Grand Master? These bricks are a museum of urban poverty. Each denizen is a living exhibit in a St. Louis World's Fair. They are mediums by default. There behind those plywood boarded up windows, the souls of the footprints of the fleeing dwell. Elegy 4. Helios looked happily down from Ra's solar flare pillar throne in that sunlight, rays radiating on the wood grain interior of the brewery, where she ate pizza with a team of trivia enthusiasts. Later that night, he met her intellect. They had cerebral sex. He tickled her cogitation, rationalizing ruminations, realizing reason reflection is intercourse. As he pollinated her speculation with ideation scattered like the dandelion seeds in breezes he exhaled. She mused on his intuitions. When drunk off the Dionysian contemplations on the bed of cell phone towers, they drift into each other's arms in his dream world. Elegy 5. Ask whomever you will, but it is easy to find where she is lodging. America's DAs with discretion prejudicially refined tell her, take the shortest sentence. If you go to trial, you will lose. How many times has she cursed those streets, painted with the blood of her youth? If she had a bomb, she'd have blown up that building. Yet the system could not have guaranteed a harsher punishment. That's the way. All lives matter. The ditty follows the conservatives' travels down from Chesterfield to Fenton. Then from Fenton to Jefferson City, Blue Lives Matter, sung from bridges over the interstate. All Lives Matter will surely be there. All Lives Matter, sung at the church. Sadly now, she is incarcerated, and her cellmate knows all too well where a prosecutor's discretion leads. Elegy 6. Flies trample her skin as she looks at the phlegm heaped out by her lungs. She is far from the food desert where black camels carry wick to toddlers and old brickstones. Where is the bus? The camel wanders carrying loads that would strain a gym rat. Another child is beaten in the basement, learning to lie, to hide tears as she cries inside. There in that house, she learns the lessons of her grandfather. He teaches her of the harshness of the snow-white world. His hits must be harsh as snow in a harvest, or she would be eaten by the avalanche of hot white hate. But little beknownst to him, he teaches her how to lie, how to hide tears as she cries inside. The devil wears an Armani suit as he steals lies and laden money. The current of currency floods and recedes, taking the old brickstone with it. Elegy 7. He, laying flat as a bouquet of roses, his principal aiming straight as a mighty oak. She, a cyclone of pleasure encircles it, wrapping it in a blanket of jubilant sensations. Her head's like soft, undulating clouds begin heaving and ebbing like Amphitrite straddling Poseidon, causing tidal waves of gratification. That's how they produce Triton and Rhodes. As he cupped her breast held by sienna rosebuds, magnificent hazel clove confections, she was anchored to his chest, palms grasping his heart, as she bestrided his sentiment, mounted on his principle. He deep in her blissful valley, while her lips French kiss his base. Elegy 8. Two women give him exhortations as their men drink sour beer and relay discourses about athletes to each other. One woman tells of a friend, enamored in a somnambulistic trance, trying to lay next to her. He came to this bar to escape loneliness and seek it like Joseph Garçon from Sartre's No Exit. They have cut him off from exit. He is marooned like his Titian ancestors in the Caribbean. He is lost in antisocial euphoria, a huntsman of the point of it all, the meaning of everything, but he ignores his dystopian fantasy to seem congenial. He puts his pathos by the wayside to sell the image of charisma, which he does poorly, but well enough. He tells them he is a swinger, footloose and lusty as Kevin Bacon. They ask for details. He tells them he finds married couples on Tinder and watches Netflix with them. I was on Tinder for a day, one says. They read sexual innuendo into his orations. Then they leave. Elegy 9. This bar stool is stronger than a Clydesdale with iron legs, for it bears more than the steel beam supporting an oil rig drilling into his identity. His crudeness erupts as a basalt spring. He suppresses the gushing crude with the spirits of barley and wheat shitted out by yeast. He sees intertwined couples infinitely sewn together in a quilt draped over a cocoa-colored bar. The bartender asks what he wanted next. He wants his other half, but he's not comfortable with himself. He wants someone comfortable with the fact that he is uncomfortable with himself. Brew that and bring it to me. He thinks this, but he cannot speak it. He felt this, but he did not actually need it. He needs to be alone, but like the Sunderbund tiger, he seeks to devour another's heart while he is devoured. He wants to be annihilated. As the crude gushes from his heart, he looks on the couple with spite. Elegy 10. Although she told him it was waterproof, he sought to prove it by trial. Sitting in a sagaciously lit cafe, he dropped it in the water. For a second, it was homogeneously mixed, like the velvet spring flowers in the blue grass. The peaceful quiescence of a mute, noiseless quiet enamors her as she gazed at the landscape of him and the decorative walls. Orchids clustered at the center of the landscape, agglomerating. Beyond the oblivious window at the epicenter of the wall, she saw ancient apartments washed out by receding waters. Receding waters of public disinvestment. It wasn't waterproof. Elegy 11. I haven't felt like reading in the past year. I just stare at the page. I have yet to be pierced by Cupid's arrow, made of scripts containing mystic spells that bear trap my eyes on Phoenician letters, acting in a binary black and white DeMille movie, now showing in the theater of my mind years ago. I am the Numenorian trampling crabgrass as I escape my destiny in the river city. Canals are blood vessels the Leviathan that swallowed me swims through. In the acidic, dark, meaty belly, I pray and reminisce on a night when I got out of bed and sought the one I loved. The watchmen of the city found me. I asked them, have you seen the one I love? When the fish expelled me, I drifted to a murky, muddled shore, full of bleach-white rib cages, imprisoning grains of sand beneath the garment of scaly skin. I was like a dead fish until my lover lifted me from that moist, arid shore. My lover took me to our temple of ginger, brick, and mortar. We showered together in rays of joy I experienced when I saw my lover on that Helios-baked shore. I dipped Cupid's arrow in the wellspring of my heart, made of scripts containing mystic spells. I telekinetically tapped out hexameters on my lover's rich thighs as I spoke of the watchman and the Leviathan. My lover's care filled my rib cage with lungs, inhaling the sweet mist of areolas making love to the sea. Elegy 12. Lying down on his back, he sandwiched his hand between the sheet cover as his fingers navigated the canal of her astern in the wake of her spine. He atop her, pressing on her bosom. She entraps his legs in hers as he thrusts, their legs pretzeling as their members unite. He was aroused by her legs intertwining him. The feeling of him rubbing against her incited an ecstasy so orgasmic, she swore she had reached nirvana. Elegy 13. Flower petals forming Fibonacci fractals in the shadow of pine tree needles. Rabbits race away from their oncoming footsteps. They, a Roman legion of two. They, a La Gran Familia, together eternally, like dope in the pocket of a dead crip. She, the heroine. He, a busted bag. She escapes because nothing can contain her spirit. She is a fine wine spilt on an outdated globe, wasted on this world. They make Fibonacci fractals in the dusty terra firma as they rush to their spot where Apollo constructs fantasies of a marble temple with pillars piercing the misty night sky. The top of the columns are so tall, they believe they are face to face with the billowy, cloudy faces of the gods. This is the problem. Like the Fibonacci fractals, the fantasy multiplied past its own infinity, pushing her out. Elegy 14. When you love, say that you are in the heart of God. Say that you are within the mind of the Absolute, where we are virtual particles, exchanging energy in the void between thoughts. Elegy 15. If he is to caress her bed of roses, then must her anxiety be concealed. Her anxieties are those velvet garments wrapping the act of her form. Like abstract thoughts, their bodies are directed toward heavenly concepts. They conceptualize their passion, strolling down khaki trolleys, talking about Audre Lorde, the real meaning of eroticism. What is conceptualization other than the physical act of unifying individual accidents into a harmony? A purposive amalgamation. Elegy 16. The spleen, malicious rancor of malignity that he spoke with, he believed, emanated from her eyes. Her pupils, only recently opened, stained eyelid steel doors. She was haggard, spent, stale, fatigued, inert. She was jaded, drowsy, done in eyes. When one designs communities founded on forums formed by people patriotic to patriarchy, he was not used to looking into the eyes of her as an individual. He may have chained her soul, but not her eyes. It was not her intention to be intimidating, standing stigmatized in his kitchen. She rents his time, he takes hers. It seems as though he takes pleasure in taking her time. Her happiness, leaving her aggravated as she journeys through the valley of stress. Elegy 17. Above the burial chamber, with the wet earthen ceiling, bedded on pillars of unconscious shadows, are verdant grasses, interpretively dancing in the Albanese tempest, whiffing typhoon whirlpools, invisible tornadoes. Beneath those tornadoes, Kirsmirishad is the one divided by nothing. A cold pyramid with a titanium base, slowly burning intense incenses in the burial chamber, a shrine to dark passions of the cold rocky world of youth. A nebulous boulder, pushed by a rayless draft, falls onto a passerby. He is the child whose grandmother called the authorities on criminals selling Mary Jane on the vestibule of the edifice next to her home. The child is a silhouette haunting the pyramid, haunting the burial chamber where an Indian woman is burned on her wounded knees hardened at the base of a katasu, while she prayed to the Albanese tempest, spiraling like Sufis in ivory gowns. The one divided by nothing into infinite pieces of ash, sprinkled on the wake world of the emerald grasses. Elegy 18. Now reality is aggrandized beyond fantastic phantasms of fantasy, because he has ascertained pleasure more immense than the ambrosial halls of the immortals, relaxed in the pleasure of eternal contemplation, contemplating on the existence of the color of love. In the heart burns a blue flame, hotter than the red flame of youth, and thus realer. This flame is wise as a sage, leading past the cocoa-painted crocodile-skin trees. This flame is thoughtful as a counselor consulting my every action, guiding, sapient, savvy, and sophic as the Armenian Grecian mystic, wooing the buyer with occult mysteries as he hypnotically sells Persian rugs. Rugs not needed. The flame knows this. The color of love is a dark hazel sorrel. So why is her exquisiteness concealed behind a tarpaulin unnaturally shaping her shapeliness, but hiding her refinement, her glamour? No intervention, no mendacity. Elegy 19. Now is the time, that indefinable, indefinite, continuous duration, that Senex antiquarian, glabrous bald man bearing a scythe and an hourglass, conveying epics containing intervals at the juncture of lastingness, where the tempo is the term of seasons, toting a chronology, chronicled in lifespans spanning stints of infinite infinitive occasions occurring on points present and past on the stage of the future. Elegy 20, wandering through annular, spheroid ruins of modernity, proceeding around ring-shaped bulwarks, while the objects of consciousness move in and out of focus. Scrutiny was a curse. Removed from the comfort of Western metaphysics, removed from the comfort of her touch, trapped in a drug-induced hell. Hell is Cercinate circling, oblicular. His consciousness contemplated suicide. Adrift in a sea of indirection, he considered suicide. But he couldn't bring himself to foreclose on the house of ring-shaped nightmares. He dreamt a living, rounded torment. He awoke neurotic in a different library of Babel, The archivist performed the same function over and over again. But now she was gone. She was a character from a previous dream. She possibly didn't exist. He ran out of the circular library. He was neurotic. Were they signs or symbols? He asks the sleeping denizens of the wake world of Carcosa. They don't answer. He makes noise. He screams. But they dream deeply while he is awake, aware, and alone. Elegy 21. Get to know his crazy. It's like residing in a sallow Iranian castle on trial in Kafka's bathroom. A sardine can slave, subjected to the servitude of unknown eyes staring them down in chauvinist civility and BDSM subjugation, like Samson chained to pillars, waiting for the chambermaid in the chamber of his own mirror. Living in a world of mirrors constructed around his reflection. He throws stones atop a glass house as he's propped up by his own erection. He complains about other people when they put their mirrors in front of his. He complains about other mirrors. Other people are his mirror. Elegy 22. Gehenna guile, Hades hyperbole, the calumniation of calumny, the defamation of sanguine hearts and detraction, a bottomless pit of fabled falseness, everlasting falsification, falsity, underworld fib and fraudulence. Yes, that Sally amorousness, that Shiganigan infatuation, spree delight, tomfoolery devotedness. This is love, an abyss of white lies. If you stare into love, love stares back into you. Elegy 23. As he looks at the lake, a ruby green palette reflecting emerald plates on a great white background. He, like the lake, reflected the past. He reflected on the past. Sitting up on a rough-hewn boulder in a green hoodie and dark blue jeans, he possessed an ill-favored appearance to the whites nearest his location, or possibly just to himself. Projecting his insecurities on the world outside himself, he found peace reflecting on the reflective lake. He was the lake. He was a stone thrown in the lake, unable to stop. He didn't realize that, like the stone, his fall was not a fall from grace, but a movement towards grace. Cutting through the water, never stopping on a slick, tilted crevice for very long, but moving towards the center, moving straight towards the goal he had been seeking for years. The rock is never stable until it hits the floor, but even then, it still moves.